Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. And my esteemed guest this evening, Mr. Modern Refugee. Welcome to Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival, my friend.
Hey, how you doing? How's everybody doing out there? Everybody staying warm with all the snow we've been having? We got actually a actual winter this year, not like them soft winters in the last couple years that we've had.
Same here. Real winter showed up this year, so it's been a little harder to keep the house warm. A little harder to, you got to glove up, you got to layer up to go outside because the wind chills have been brutal here. It's like my little weather station here says it's 11 degrees here right now, and the low tonight is supposed to be like -4, -5. It's been like that for the last 4 or 5 nights. Thankfully, knock on wood, no frozen pipes or any catastrophes to deal with. So it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good. Despite the cold temperatures and all the freaking snow, we're surviving here in the Northeast. We had to get back to our roots and the old ways that we used to do things here when it used to snow. So dig out your snow shovels, find the old snow plow, and move some snow this year. But I hope all is well with you guys up there in your frozen north. Could you introduce yourself and your amazing channel to the viewers here on Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival?
Yeah, sure. I came up with the name Modern Refugee because I have always liked the old skills and the stuff that I learned growing up. And the stuff that I learned growing up was just everyday life. We were pretty self-sufficient when I was a kid. We raised chickens. I hunted, I fished. My mom and my grandmother planted huge gardens. We preserved everything. I know just about every way to preserve food, kind of the old school way, anywhere from canning to smoking meat to making sausage, because we did all this stuff. And one day, sitting around it, I was already into preparedness because I belonged to, different like chats and stuff that were online and whatnot. And I actually had a guy, we were getting ready to go to the Upper Peninsula to go hiking. And I posted a picture on one of these groups of just the coffee pot sitting on my backyard fire pit making coffee and say, we're getting ready to go on a hike. And I had a guy comment on that. He said, I don't mean to sound like, a moron, but he said, how do you make coffee over an open fire? I've never made coffee with anything other than like a Mr. Coffee maker. And it was a legitimate question. And I told him, you got to have an old time coffee pot. You put the grounds in the top, fill it with water. You listen for it thumping inside the lid. And, that's how the longer it sits on there, the stronger the coffee gets, and I'm thinking to myself, there's people out there that don't know how to make coffee on a campfire,
It's
so
true.
something's got to give here. So at that point, I talked to my kids and say, I want to start a YouTube channel. And they all kind of like laughed at me. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. How do I start a YouTube channel? And they basically walked me through how to set up a YouTube channel. And it was about probably a month later, I started making videos and posting videos, and I just started with stuff that I thought people needed to know, and it's just been going on from there, and I throw comments and stuff in, and now I've been doing live streams where we just basically have old time visiting type discussions on different aspects of preparedness and gear and what current events, whatever happens to come up, and then I kind of inject my experiences and stuff back into that. So and I probably got, 12, 1,300 videos by now, and most of those videos have some type of skill or tip or trick or something in that from things that I learned, you know, years ago and, stuff more recently. And that's just my channel.
Yeah.
I really try to give people solutions to problems,
That's the way to be.
in
It's my favorite part
my
is
way, you know.
it's practical knowledge that a lot of people may have never experienced, but in any kind of SHTF situation, that practical knowledge is going to be extremely useful if you've at least heard somebody talk about it, right? At least walked you through the steps. That's the big thing for me, and that's what I get from your channel is the practical knowledge of something. You know, for instance, you did a video on processing a deer, right? I watched the whole entire thing from you grabbing the deer to then following videos with you processing the deer and everything, and you do it a little differently than I do. And I picked up some things from you that I had never tried before that next season, when I do get a deer, I'm going to try it your way because it seemed much cleaner and easier your way than versus the way that I've been doing it. I got to be honest with you. So thank you for sharing that with everybody. It's so important that people learn this stuff.
That's something that I wanted. I wanted to actually do that video for quite a while, but that was and of course, that deer, I didn't get that deer hunting. That deer was a roadkill deer, and
that deer found you.
Yeah, that happens all the time around here, and it's gotten to the point where here in Michigan, they will just issue you online a permit for a roadkill deer. So if you see a deer that was just hit on the road, you could just hop on your phone, fill out the questionnaire, and they email you your little permit to take it. You can just take that. That's free meat, if you know what to do with it. And that's. And I said, you know what? There wasn't a better way to do a video on that. That deer got hit in the head. There was no wasted meat on it whatsoever. So it was a perfect opportunity to do that. And in the way that if you can butcher a deer, you can do a hog, you can do a steer, you can do basically any four-legged animal. They're all put together basically the same. So it's valuable skills to have.
Yep, just scaling it up. I had gotten a deer a couple years ago, and I set the camera up, and I was doing a full gut tutorial, right? And I had the camera all set up and posed perfectly in the rocks just on the stone wall, and I drug the deer over there to get just the right angle at it so I could show everybody what was going on, and spend all this time lining it up, and never hit the freaking record button when I did it. Oh. So I did the whole thing super slow motion, talking to the camera, something that should have taken 5 minutes, but I made it a 20-minute video, to try and walk everybody through it. I never hit the record button. I was so devastated when I got home, and I'm like, where is the footage? Where is it?
I've had things like that too. I remember one video I did. There was too much background. There was too much wind noise, so you couldn't hear anything that I said when I got through it. And that was, on that learning curve, learning how to do, cinematography, so to speak. Being able to shoot videos that are to the point. And that's the other thing too. I just try to keep things to the point, when I'm trying to show somebody how to do something. And I've had so many people comment back, say, "Hey, we appreciate, your straightforward approach to it."
Yeah. So, yeah. That's the best part about YouTube is it's a place for you to be you and share you with the rest of the world, right? There are some folks who
wouldn't.
Go ahead.
I wish they wouldn't censor certain topics a certain amount because you know what?
It needs to be talked about.
And knives and stuff like that. That all goes along with, being self-sufficient and living a rural lifestyle. And
yes, sir.
People that live in glass towers don't see it that way, unfortunately. So,
yeah, very, very true. So, a couple quick questions for you. Sure. Are you a tent guy or a hammock guy?
Hammock with an underquilt and an overquilt and a rain fly of some type, or if it's summertime, a mosquito net.
Yeah, same here. I did the tents for years, and then I finally found when I got up off the ground, I was a lot more comfortable and well rested when I woke up.
Oh yeah.
So hammocks are the way for me, and they pack so small. You can shove them in any backpack.
I've done winter camps and stuff, and I always take a little. If I can, I take something like this along that shows me what the temperature is inside and outside. So I'll keep the inside thermometer in by me where I'm, where my sleeping bag is inside the cocooned up in the hammock, and I'll hang the sensor like on the tree, next to me or whatever. And there's been times when it was like 19 degrees outside. It was 70 degrees inside my sleeping bag and my hammock setup. So the way I do it, and I can pack that whole thing in basically to a backpack and then hike in where I want to camp.
Yeah, you don't need a big big bug out bag to take a hammock and
Hmm.
a rain fly with you. And if you get, I found if I get a little oversized rain fly and I bring a couple tarp clips with me,
Yep.
I can seal the end of that thing up and turn it into a tent over top of my hammock and just leave a little room in between two of them for the sag of the hammock. So
Yeah.
so my straps don't pull. But
Or another thing that works good is snapping a couple of ponchos together. If you got a couple of ponchos that are compatible, snap that together, and you can like increase the size of your rain fly. But I'll do my underquilt, which is basically like for those that don't know, it's basically it's like a sleeping bag that goes underneath your hammock because you'll lose
yep,
so much heat out from underneath that. And then you put the sleeping bag in the hammock, you actually unzip it and invert it so it's upside down. So when you crawl in the hammock, you stick your feet into the pocket and then you pull the hammock or the sleeping bag around you, because if you try to lay on it, you're compressing your insulation again. So that I always remember that you invert your hammock or you invert your sleeping bag when you're in a hammock, and then over top of it I put a wool blanket over top of it then, and then I have my rain fly, and that'll take me down into the 20s, no problem.
yeah. The angry prepper and I did a weekend out. We were supposed to get this big nasty nor'easter snowstorm, right? And he's like, "Let's do it. Let's go to the woods for the weekend. Let's go freeze to death together." I'm like, "All right, cool. Let's go." And we went out to the woods, and I did the first night in a hammock, and it was the best night's sleep I'd ever got. It was -15 with the wind
Mhm.
chill.
Yep.
I think we got like 5.5 inches of snow overnight, and I slept like a baby. I slept
Yeah,
like a baby that night.
all that fresh air does wonders for you.
Oh man, oh I slept so good. And then the next night I spent in the light fighter tent, one of those little small
Okay.
military
Yep.
pop-up tents, and worst night of sleep ever. Ever.
Yeah.
Same insulation. I use the military sleep system, the
Yep.
MSS.
Yeah, that's what I use too.
Yeah, those are fantastic. I used that, a wool blanket, and I think I had a whoopee that I would just throw
Yep.
over my head so I didn't have to
Hmm.
zip up the Gore-Tex. And man, same sleep system, same everything. On the ground, I was so much colder than I was in that hammock with the underquilt. The underquilt is really what does it for you. And if you can get it hung just right to where you're in like a little cocoon, there's a little air
Oh yeah.
space
Yep.
between you and the insulation.
Hmm.
Oh, it's so warm inside a hammock. Don't knock it if you haven't tried it. I promise you,
Well, then
it's worth it.
too, a hammock, like even in the summertime, like if you're hiking or whatever, you can pull that hammock out, string it between two trees. Now you got a place to sit. So you
Yeah,
can, you can sit down. You're not, sitting on a log or whatever like that. That's a heck of a lot. When you're stopped to have lunch or whatever, you keep that hammock on the outside of your pack where you can get into it easy and not have to rip everything apart.
yep,
I've
yep.
used my hammock for that as well, just for a regular seat. But yeah, I think in most situations a hammock is the best way to go. Tents have their purpose too, and
Oh yeah,
I've got a hot tent that I have a stove in, and I got a stove
same.
jack and whatnot
Yeah.
to it. But with that, I have to have some type of cot. So I have like a little backpack cot that I put up that's got little short legs on it because the way my knees are, as bad as my knees are, to get up off the ground flat, oh,
Yeah.
I got to have something to literally pull myself up on. But if I got that little bit of elevation from that little cot, plus that cot gives you a little bit of insulation. You're not right on the ground, and then I'll put a pad
Yep.
on the cot and I'll lay down. And then when I'm in the hot tent, especially, I'll split all my wood and I'll put it underneath my cot, and then I put my stove like about an arm's length away from me. So then when I'm laying on my cot in the middle of the night, starts to get a little chilly in my hot tent, I can reach underneath my
Oh, that's a great idea. That's
cot.
a
I can
great
pull out a
idea.
piece of wood and I can stoke my fire from right laying there. I don't have to get up to stoke my fire. So that's
What a
the
great
first,
idea.
and that's the first way that I put the wood. That's the first wood that I use up is the stuff that's underneath my cot. So
So
and that,
I bought one of those one Tigress hammock hot tents.
yep.
I love that thing.
That's
Absolutely
what
love it.
my buddy Uncle Bumble uses. He's got it.
Uh,
His is like a dark brown. He strings it
yep.
between. He puts the hammock up and then he strings that over top of it. And then he's got a larger stove than what I've got, And this time around, there's when we go winter camping here in a couple of weeks, I'm planning on basically shacking up with him and putting my cot in
Oh,
his,
you can totally
so we
fit two
can.
cots in there.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, and
I've
that's
done it.
kind of the plan for that particular one this time, because we've never done quite that. We've always taken separate, and we have done multiple different like setups. We've done like big what do you call it, like big tarps shelters, and then I've done
Yeah.
smaller tarp shelters that were only like about yay high off the ground, and they went to the back, and we'd have the fire in front to radiate the heat. We've done like poncho camps where we did our shelters made nothing but ponchos, and we do like his setup would be here, my setup would be over here, and then we would have we'd stack our firewood on the back here, and then we put our fire kind of in the center, so it kind of like
Walled it off. Yeah.
yeah, it would bounce the heat back toward us, and that was like in March when it was down in like probably the low 30s at night, and we had perfectly comfortable night sleep in that too.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
but you could do a lot with a couple. If you got, two guys and each of you got two ponchos, you can actually make a pretty large shelter with those snapping all those ponchos together. That's why it's important
Oh,
if you
yeah.
get ponchos to have them, because every poncho's got a little bit different snap setup on it. And I've got some like military surplus ones that I got years ago. Those snaps aren't the same as kind of like the reproduction ones that you get now, so you got to kind of watch that.
Yeah. It's, if you have a group, I would highly suggest doing as much as you can to try and standardize gear like that for like crew served missions, right? We'll say
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
if you guys are all going out together on a hunting camp, if you have kind of standardized gear and share the workload, that's another something that you talk about all the time that folks should think about is not everybody needs to carry a hatchet, a shovel, and a saw. If you can divvy that up,
yep.
some folks can carry more water and share that instead of everybody carrying a shovel, a hatchet, and everything else. But share the workload with your group if you're going out on an adventure, or SHTF if you guys are traveling together. Distribute the weight throughout
Yeah,
everybody.
the gear, the tools basically, you could get by with just one person carrying them. The kind of the flip side of that is your personal items like a folding knife. If you're carrying a folding knife, and what I typically will do is I'll use my folding knife for food prep, and then I'll use a fixed blade knife for the other camp chores. But
Yep.
then like headlamps and flashlights and stuff, everybody should have at least a couple of them, because one will typically crap out on you. You should have multiples of those things, and every person should have, everybody. And this is going to sound weird. Everybody should have their own spoon, and you know what? Those long spoons
Oh, they're
are
valuable.
what you really need to have when you're putting that stuff. And that's the same thing for like a get home bag or a bug out bag or whatever. And because that the MREs, you got to reach down in that to get the food out. The same thing
Yep.
with like mountain houses and stuff, and your hands might be dirty. You might not have the chance to wash your hands, but you want to eat something. That's why you need those long, they almost look like Sunday spoons.
Oh,
Those are
yeah.
the kind of spoons that people need to carry with their stuff. And another thing too that's kind of off the wall is a couple of clothespins, couple of pinch clothespins, so
Hmm.
you can hang up whatever, something to dry your clothes. Make a little rack to put your, 'cause especially if you're out in the wintertime, stuff's going to get wet. Snow's going to melt on your
Yeah.
gear and whatnot. You need to have some plan to dry that, and it's usually just having some kind of rack to hang stuff up on, and a couple of clothespins will keep that stuff hanging up so it doesn't fall in the fire, catch on fire on you or whatever, and it doesn't really weigh anything. The same thing, you just have to string a piece of paracord across. If you got a couple of clothespins, you can hang your gear up so it can dry off and stuff. Just little things like that.
Oh, yeah, that's big time. Metal clothespins, if you can find the metal ones, they're all
Mhm.
wire and bent together.
Oh yeah.
Million and one uses for those things. If you needed to straighten them out and use them for something else, you totally could.
Hmm.
So, fantastic suggestion with the clothespins. That's a great one. I might actually replace some of my tarp clips with clothespins now that you mentioned it, because I could definitely see the use for those. Okay, I guess my next question for you is. It's kind of a silly question because I think the answer is yes to both, but fixed blade or folder in a knife?
Hmm. Well, I carry a folder constantly everywhere every day. So I'd say a folder would, for everyday carry, yeah, it should be straight up folder. But as you start to progress, that you want to do other things, whatever you're working on the farm or whatever, now it starts where you're doing more and more heavier jobs. Then you want to transition to a smaller fixed blade. And if you're doing stuff like butchering or anything like that, of course you're going to need larger stuff. I have never went camping without a fixed blade, but there has been times when I have went camping with a fixed blade. I never touched my fixed blade. The only knife I used was my sharp folder that I had in my pocket. So, you can get fixed blades that are small like folders, but the folder I think is just kind of universal.
Yeah.
So, but there's been times that I have went hunting camping, even winter camping. I never even used my fixed blade. I just used my folding pocket knife that I had to, do my food prep and to make some shavings if I wanted to start a fire. The big fixed blade knife never even came out of the sheath. So I would have to say, if you've got a good sharp folding knife, and you always have it with you, you're doing all right.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think a folder is like the ultimate. You should have one, right? The gentleman should have a pocket knife and possibly a
Mhm.
flashlight.
Oh yeah.
Livingston Man says often. He says the first question people ask me is, "Why do you have a flashlight?" The second question is, "Can I use your flashlight?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you say that, these are mine right here in my pocket. This is my little Coast that I
oh, that's awesome.
take everywhere, and then this is basically my work folder. It's a zero tolerance 0350, and it's a beast. It's heavy, but I sometimes have to pry on stuff. So I wanted a
Yeah,
heavier folding knife that I could actually pry around on and not have to worry about it. And it's that S30V steel, so it holds an edge quite a bit. And I have to cut a lot of like plastic banding,
yep.
and it works really good for that. And about once a month, I'll sit down and put an edge back on it. But that's the thing that I carry.
That's awesome. Small flashlights, invaluable. Gotta have them. My car keys have little tiny triple
Yeah.
A O
Oh yeah.
lights on them, and just so handy. Even from the car to the house, on a dark night where you forgot to leave the porch lights on.
Mhm.
Yeah, it beats tripping over the neighbor's cat as you're walking up to the house, right?
Well, like for me at work, if we're like looking at some kind of mechanical thing or whatever, to be able to shine some light down in there, see what you're doing. And another thing too is a power outage in a public place. People got lights on their phones and stuff now, but there's been lots of times when you know I've been in a large building and the power went out, and you're not familiar with the place. You'd be
Oh
surprised
yeah.
how handy it is having a small little flashlight with you, and that's how it basically just came to be an everyday carry item for me.
So are you? Do you subscribe to the every flashlight should be a rechargeable flashlight? Because when you can't get batteries anymore, can you still recharge your light with like a solar panel and like a power bank? Or I know some people are dead set against having like regular AA, AAA battery lights, but
I have a couple rechargeable headlamps and stuff. I haven't had a lot of luck with them. I'm working on one now that I've had for about a year. It's a Nebo brand, and it's a little bit heavier one.
mhm.
That one seems to be doing okay, but just like anything else, a- if I had my choice of just a regular flashlight or a rechargeable one, unless I knew that rechargeable was good to go, I would still probably go with an inexpensive, you know, oh, an inexpensive just an inexpensive light like these, because
Yeah,
these are kind of expendable. If I lose it, I'm not out. The last time I looked, these were like $8, and I probably got
yeah,
10 of them.
yeah.
And if
You
I lose
can't
them,
be
it's not a big deal. And always have batteries here, so it's not a big deal for me to, swap a battery out now and then. And they're all LEDs, so they last a really long time. But
mm,
I've had problems with recharger. I have my rechargeable headlamp. I got it all recharged up great, and I take it out and it's really cold outside or something like that, and it just
Yep.
dies. And
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
that's the problem I have with rechargeables. I have found out through the years that our one that isn't rechargeable is typically more reliable. So anyway, that's a take on that, I
I
guess.
I'm kind of in the both category. I have a few O lights that I really like, and I've
Hmm.
been recharging and discharging those for years, and they still
Hmm.
function really well.
Yep.
But they're pricey, like you said. If you lose one of those, you're like, oh man, that really hurt. I can't believe I
Yeah.
lost that flashlight. And the solution that I found some pretty decent rechargeable batteries on Amazon
Hmm.
and lithium ion rechargeable batteries, and they work great. They work absolutely great. And then I have excess AA and AAA batteries, and they actually make inserts for them too that look like C cells and D cells,
Yeah.
so that
I've
you
seen
can
them.
put the AA's inside those,
Hmm.
and kind of you're not going to get all the power that you would out of a device that was going to run on D cells, but you'll be able to make it function at least for a short amount of time.
I
Um,
did recently, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, I purchased some Surefire rechargeable 123 batteries,
mm,
and I've used them now for a while. They've died a couple of times. I've charged them a couple of times. They seem to be okay, but time will tell. Time will tell on that. And then I've got a Streamlight one. What is it? It's 18. What are they?
yeah,
18650.
18650. Yep.
Those I have a couple of those that actually came with the Streamlights, and they seem to be okay, but I haven't had them long enough to say ironclad that that's the way to go yet. I still got plenty of, we're just plain 123 Surefire batteries here. I usually try to buy them when they're on sale
Oh
and keep
yeah.
them here because the lithiums are actually better for the cold. The
Yeah. Yeah.
lithiums
They
don't.
last a little bit longer.
Yeah, but the bad thing about a lithium is good and then it dies, where an alkaline will kind of slowly, you'll start to see it dim out before it crashes on you, where
Yeah.
a lithium battery doesn't give you any warning. So
Oh
that's
no.
another
When they're
tip
done,
that's
they're
out there.
they're done. They're
Yep.
like the what do we call them? The eight and skaters at work, right? Eight and
Yeah.
skate. Poop.
Yep.
Then you turn around and look for them. They're gone. It's 3:30. They long gone.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, great conversation. Great conversation. Any questions from the chat? I know we got a lot of folks in here in the chat. Who I'm sure have questions for Modern Refugee. I really appreciate your mindset and your continued locked into the old ways, right? You don't let them go, and you remind folks that there's ways that we used to do those things, and this is how we used to do it before all this fancy smanchy technology. And I think that's like probably my second favorite part of your channel, is that you don't let the old ways go and you keep breathing life into them. Because I honestly feel that we're like one hiccup from the sun away from all these modern conveniences just no longer existing, and having to revert to those old ways. And it's going to be so hard for people who have never thought about how they used to do things to adapt. And I think you're one of the few links on YouTube to the old ways. And I
Well, I
really,
don't
really
know.
appreciate it.
I don't. I only know what I know, and the stuff that we did when I was growing up and stuff. It's stuff that we needed to live. You had to cut your firewood. You had to, grow your potatoes. You had to do that stuff, whether you like it or not. Now those kind of things have become hobbies. People just do them,
For
for
fun.
fun, for something to
Yeah.
do. But, when we did it, it was a little bit more serious. You had to have that stuff. You had to have, whatever, 100 quarts of tomatoes canned, for the winter. You had to have the wood bin filled up. You had to kind of take care of yourself. And we still went to town for stuff, and there were still things that mom and dad bought and whatnot, but it was nothing like it is today with people just spending money on stuff. You figured out how to do stuff without it. Just like the jar buttons. I'm sure anybody that's went to a garage sale or an auction at some point has seen a jar of buttons, and that all came from the Depression. Those old folks didn't throw nothing out. They
Oh
kept
yeah.
the stuff because they would reuse anything and everything. Crazy quilts. Where people got the different squares on the quilts and stuff. Now that all came from necessity.
Yep.
And
Yep.
nowadays everybody just wants to throw money at stuff, and sometimes there's no money to throw at a problem. You got to figure something out. So
JD Prepping Erie says, would you sleep with your feet forward the heat or your head in a hot tent? Me personally, I sleep kind of like Modern Refugee said, with it in reach of my arms so that I can feed the stove or get to the stove right away if anything's going on with it. So, what are your thoughts?
how I will typically sleep, and I want my heat source closer to the top half of my body, like my core. That's where I want kind of the heat to go. And I will typically sleep with my boots on when I'm winter camping. And the reason I do that is because if you have to get up in the middle of the night to, pee or whatever, then you're fumbling around trying to get your shoes back on and stuff. And that's actually a lot more difficult than it sounds like. And what I'll do about an hour before I'm ready to go to sleep, I'll take my socks off. I will turn my socks inside out. I'll put them beside our campfire if we're sitting out, doing a chat around a campfire, or I will, put it by the hot tent or the hot tent stove and let the moisture come out of my socks, and I'll open my boots up. I'll take them off. Same thing. I'll point them toward the fire so some heat can get in there and dry them out a little bit. Then I'll turn my socks back around. I will, keeping my bare feet along the fire to keep them warm too. And I'll put my socks back on, and then I'll put my boots back on over top, but I don't tie it because you don't want any circulation to be cut off. So you don't want to like cram your feet into your boots. So my boots are still on, but they're open. And that way, if I got to jump up in the middle of the night, I still got my boots on. I can walk around and not have to worry about fumbling around and, getting a wet foot or something like that. But that's basically what I do. So I kind of have I go through a procedure before I go to bed when I'm out camping in the wintertime. And that's one of the things. I will dry my socks and warm my feet up good before I even crawl into where I'm going to take a nap for the night.
Yeah, that's sound advice. And always carry a change of socks, folks. If you're going out to spend the
Oh
night
yeah,
somewhere,
couple
nothing better.
pairs.
Nothing change your day better than a fresh pair of socks. I'm telling you,
Oh
a
yeah.
fresh pair of socks. Gotta have
And
them.
sometimes it's just having, you don't necessarily have to have the largest, heaviest pair of socks either, because that does the same thing. You put on like two pairs of socks or whatever, and you cram them down in your boots. Now you've cut off all the circulation going down into your blood carries your heat in your body. So if
Yeah.
your circulation is restricted in any way, shape, or form, that's going to keep that. You'd be surprised if you have the right size shoes with good insulation, and you have a good dry pair of socks that fits, and everything is kind of the right size where it's not cutting off any circulation. You'd be surprised at how warm your feet will stay with just that.
Where did it go? Loretta had a good comment here. Another skill is hand sewing. If you don't know, learn. If you know, show someone else. Amen. Being able to mend your clothes and things like that. In when times get tough, that's so important to be able to
And I'll
fix the
mention
things
something
you have.
else about clothes and being able to mend clothes, especially, and that's why, like knife sheaths, I've got some type of cord on there, or I got some type of paracord like on the back of the knife. I can cut that and I can pull the strands out of it, and then if I have my guys can see it there. You see a little piece of tape that's on the bottom of that. Underneath that piece of tape, there's actually a needle under there. I can peel that tape, pull that needle out, take one of the strands out of my paracord, and I can whip stitch a rip in pants or whatever. Because what'll happen is you rip your pants or something, you got a hole in your armor then, and heat can
Mm,
escape out of that. And like if you rip the knee out of a pair of pants and it's cold outside, that will start to chill that leg down, and eventually that will draw your body temperature down. So you want to fix any type of hole in your clothing immediately if it's cold outside. And if you got a needle taped to your sheath and you can pull some strands of paracord out of the inner strands out, that works as a good makeshift stitch. And I've actually done that different times when I was out in the woods, and I actually did tear a hole in something, and it can save you. I'm here to tell you, if you got a hole in your clothes and you can have no way to close that back up, you're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you don't have a needle, hopefully you're carrying some
Tape or something.
cargo tape, right?
Yeah.
Hey, the needle and the cargo tape, all part of the 10 C's of survival, right?
Yeah.
You want your canvas sail needle and your cargo tape. He bends the rules a little bit with cargo tape because we all know it's duct tape, right? We all know it's duct tape. But
yeah, and if you're using tape, Gorilla Tape. The Gorilla Tape is the best that I've ever used.
The stickiest stuff you can find, and that stuff sticks cold or hot. Not the best when it's cold. You might have to warm it up with your hands, but it sticks. It sticks.
Yeah. I had once too where I had a hole in the sole of my shoe and my foot kept getting cold, and I didn't know why until I got back. That foot just kept getting cold. I'm like, why is this foot? And I turned the thing over and I had a crack in the sole of my shoe, and that was just enough to let cold in there and chill that one foot down. So you got to inspect your gear too, especially after any outing. You want to go over your gear, make sure it's good to go.
Vanessa Kitty says the sewing kits I carry are leather goods based and clothing based. Both are handy. Amen. Yeah. Amen. To be able to fix heavy, a belt.
Yeah, you want a heavy enough needle that you can poke it through some canvas or something if you got to use it. You don't want it too big and you don't want it too small. You want it small enough that you can dig a sliver out with it too if you have to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's those are big. I got to tell you, messing with firewood and things like that. If you don't have gloves on, prepare to get splinters.
Oh yeah, and gloves. That's another thing. That's right up there with the socks. I always got gloves with me in my packs. It doesn't matter whether it's summer or whatnot, because there's a lot of things out in nature you don't want to touch.
Yeah, very true. But are you like me, where you have your gloves in your back pocket and you get into something and you look down and you're like, oh man, I should have put my freaking gloves on first. That's my downfall is I always forget to put the gloves on until my hands are filthy and I'm like, shit, I should put some gloves on.
I usually always have my gloves on, but I have like a pile of gloves in my truck, and of course they're all the same kind because I kind of buy them in bulk. But there's been times where I have had 3 or 4 pairs of gloves laying on the hump in my truck, and I grabbed 2 gloves and I head outside and I got 2 of the same glove. So you kind of want to keep those separate. In my packs and stuff, when I pack gloves, I double check to make sure that I have, a real pair before I put it in my pack, because you know what? Stupid stuff like that does happen.
Yep. John Poole says a piece of Flex Seal tape in my wallet as well. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
A couple wraps on a knife sheath, and then of course the old cigarette lighter with the tape on it. That's saved me quite a few times too.
Oh yeah, and people don't think that plastic and the adhesives in the tape is flammable as hell.
Oh yeah,
it's nasty smoke, not something you really want to breathe in. But if you need to get a fire going in a pinch, any accelerant is accelerant. So don't be shy about it if you need to use it. That's what it's there for, right?
Yep.
Let's see. Where there was another question in here. No, it wasn't a question. Where did it go? I've got 2 different chats going.
I see Vanessa there's got gloves and glove inserts, gauntlets, and mittens. Mittens are, if it's really cold, if you're really in Arctic type conditions, mittens are kind of what you want to have. And then you want to have a pair of like more dexterous gloves with you. So, when you're doing big things, you're using your mittens, but if you got to do some fine things, you still got some gloves to fall back on. I got some of those like ice fishing mittens. They're like a black, they almost kind of look like an asphalt texture on them. And they're like a heavy, they're almost like a gum blanket. They're that really heavy, like plastic dipped stuff. And those things are tremendously warm, but you can't do much with them because
no dexterity.
They're all in one thing. Yeah. But
lobster hands.
Yeah.
But they're warm. That's all that matters. That's all that matters when it's cold. I actually found military surplus. I used to hunt Facebook Marketplace for good military surplus stuff, whether it was the BDUs or what I really was really looking for was containers and gear, the old metal military surplus containers,
Okay. Like canteens and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well I ended up finding a lot that the guy had with all kinds of stuff in it, and he was like, "Well, there's a whole nother tote too, but I didn't even get into it. It's like gloves and things like that." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I bought the whole lot, and I had a couple people go in on it with me, and I think we each spent like $35 on it. And I was like, "Hey, whatever comes out of it, we'll each cherry pick some good items, and then we'll divvy out the rest of it."
Yep.
And in that was a couple of pairs of outdoor research gloves. These things are incredible. I don't know if these guys, whoever had this stuff was probably stationed in like Alaska because it was all the extreme cold weather gear in there. And those things are just amazing as far as warmth is concerned. Yeah. I looked up a pair of them and they retail for like $300 or something like that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and you get them all in a lot.
I always thought the M65 field jacket liners, and they make pant liners. They're that go with that too. And I've had a couple of pairs of them over the years, and those are stupid warm for their weight too.
Yeah,
they're not what I would call like Arctic, but like more normal cold weather, like down into the teens and stuff. And the thing of it is with that jacket liner, you could basically stitch that into another jacket that you got. It doesn't have to be an M65 for that to work. And that was something too that if I ever ran across that military surplus, I would grab one of those too.
Totally. The modern version that they have. Well, I'm not going to say it's the modern version, but they have what they call level 7 now. Because they redid what they call the ECWAC system. I think it's
the EWAC system or whatever.
Yeah, they redesigned it, and there is what they call a level 7 now. The poofy suit they call it, and it's a Permaloft insulation. It's for the dry cold, right? When it's like it is outside now. It's not snowing or anything, but it's extreme cold. There was like 2 or 3 of those layers in this lot that we bought, and that is some of the warmest stuff I've ever been in. They're just incredible, and if you can find them at a surplus shop and you live in a cold climate, do it. They're so worth it as an overlayer. The government spent billions of your tax dollars to perfect this stuff, so if you can pick it up cheap and use it to your advantage, you should.
I think they should send me some for an evaluation.
For sure.
Yeah, I probably paid enough in taxes over the years. They could probably afford to send me a set.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, there's a lot of this stuff that they, they're like, oh, it's not serviceable and it's got a small tear in it, and they throw it in the shredder. It sucks to see that kind of waste. The MREs and stuff too. I know they usually try to cycle them out before they go. I think they can only keep them if there's 3 years left. I think once it gets to 3 years, they have to cycle them out because they could be stored that long before somebody sees them again. So they do cycle out the MREs, but by the time we get them, they're dog food at that point. I lean towards the prepackaged freeze-dried meals now, like the peak refuels and stuff like that. I found those to be extremely handy and really easy to make on the go, like the long spoons and stuff. Like you said, those are fantastic. But to get a hot meal in a little package like that is awesome. The MRE heaters, typically when you get them, they don't work. Right, they're past their prime.
One thing that I've noticed over the years too, talking about food and hiking and whatever, if something happens and you got to walk 20 miles to get home or whatever, just from different hikes and stuff over the years that we've been on with different people and stuff, if a person is fed, they can typically stand a lot more abuse. Basically, if they got to really push themselves. But if you try to do that on an empty stomach, then
Mm.
that thins down the grouping a little bit. And that's just something I've noticed from the years hiking with different people and stuff and camping and whatever, that if you got a good belly full of food, you can take a lot more
Yeah,
getting roughed up. And that's just
absolutely.
something that I never like discount, because I've had people say that too, on different like bag and gear videos and stuff. Oh, you're walking home, you don't have time to stop and get something to eat. You gotta, push yourself to get home, whatever. Yeah, but you can do that a lot better and with a little bit better morale. And then two, if you're beating yourself down too much, your senses aren't going to be the same. But if you got a couple granola bars in your belly, you're got that little sugar high there. You can just do a lot more. That's just something that I've learned from my own experience.
Oh yeah, I totally believe that. I think as long as you can, food tends to keep the morale up, right? And
Yeah,
if you
and
can
it
give
doesn't even
somebody a
have to be
hot
like
meal,
yeah, and it doesn't
ooh,
even have to be anything crazy. You'd be
no,
surprised what you can do with just like there's a one thing that I've done a lot of times is like the packages of like instant mashed potatoes.
yeah,
I'll take a package of that. I'll take a package of like the brown gravy mix, and I'll take a package of chicken. And I'll take that, with me when we're going out hiking or whatever, and I'll cut the side. I'll hold the package on its side, and I'll cut that top and open that up with the instant mashed potatoes. And I'll pour some little bit of hot water in there. Of course, you got a glove on underneath it. Stir that around a little bit, and sprinkle a little bit of that gravy mix in there, stir that around,
mm,
and then put your chicken in there from the pouch and stir that around. You got like a little Thanksgiving dinner right in a pouch, and you just make it right in that
that's
pouch
awesome.
for you. Like from Idahoan potatoes or whatever you can get them. They're like they used to be like 79 cents. They're probably like $1.50 now for a pouch, but then that's enough too. If there's two people, that can even be, you can share that with somebody too. But I've utilized that dozens of times when we went out. You don't have a lot of money into it either. Not near as much as what you'd have into like a pre-done up meal. But some of those pre-done up meals are actually really good if you doctor them up. Like we've done different things with like pad thai and whatnot.
Hmm.
Like you got like Mountain House or whatever, one of the other brands. You make that, but then you take a couple of packets of a peanut butter along with you, and you
Oh
take
yeah,
a packet of like whatever packet of chicken along with you too. You take that peanut butter and chicken, and you add that back into that pad thai like freeze dried meal that you got there. Boy, you got a heck of a decent meal right there then. And like I said, there's a lot of times I'll take those pre done up meals like that, and I'll doctor them up with some extra stuff for some extra calories and whatnot.
oh yeah, yeah. A lot of that stuff, it comes kind of bland. So to
Oh yeah.
doctor those things up, man, that's kind of
And like I
second
said,
nature.
if you can get those little packs of peanut butter that are, yeah, they're
Mm,
not even the MRE ones. You can get, like Jif, and there's one there where they have like cashew butter and stuff, but they're like in a big like ketchup packet. And I don't know, there's probably about 100 calories, 120 calories and something like that in one of those. And then if you throw some chicken or something in there, boy, you just fortified the heck out of that.
oh
And you're
yeah,
not really increasing the weight of your pack that much with that stuff. I like stuff that is kind of semi ready to eat, because I don't
yeah.
want to,
Sit down and
you
put
start getting
something
into freeze
together.
dried stuff. For me, it's you got to have water for a lot of that stuff then. So then, your water that you could be drinking, you got to use it to cook with and stuff. So it's just,
Mm,
yeah, I guess that's just, and it depends on
uh,
too. If I was going on a really, really long hike where water wasn't an issue, I'd probably go with the freeze dried. But
mm.
it's kind of, each situation's a little different.
I did a live stream with the CEO of Nutrient Survival, and he told me that
Mhm.
it is recommended that you mix it with water for taste, but you do not need to. You can
Yeah,
just
you can crunch it
you can
down.
crunch that stuff down and go.
Yeah.
But he said,
But you're probably going to need a little water to wash it down with, because if you're
no
going to be
doubt
like,
about that. Spitting out the freeze dried dust.
yeah,
Yeah, to say that there's no water in it at all is an understatement, because there is like 0.5% moisture
yeah,
left in that stuff.
yeah.
It is going to suck every bit
And
of saliva out of your mouth.
there's a lot of stuff you can buy right off the shelf in the grocery store that you can,
Oh yeah, yeah, your
peanut
oatmeals and
butter
stuff like that.
tortillas and The only thing of it is if anything like you carry peanut butter or anything like that, you gotta if it's cold outside, that stuff can freeze into a brick on you too. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
stuff that you can keep in mind. But there's lots of things that I've made. I've made meals out at camp and stuff with just stuff right from the grocery store that was sort of already kind of semi
Ready
um,
to go.
ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah. CUCV Farmer, I hope you're talking about over the chat because it asked me if I want to insert ads and I keep telling it no. So hopefully they're not putting the pop-up ads over everything. They get pretty intrusive with these sometimes. So I tend to leave them off until after the stream is over, and then YouTube will automatically insert the ad. So if you catch these things live, you get them ad-free, except for the ones they throw over the chat. I have no control over that whatsoever. And that's been a new thing for YouTube.
Vanessa Kitty's got in the chat here. Says, "Don't forget the spices in the field. Hit
Yeah.
peppers, dehydrated powder." One thing that the little tip or whatever, but when you go to the Chinese restaurant, have them give you a couple little packets of that soy sauce. That comes in handy too. And typically those packets are a little bit tougher. You don't have to worry about those busting open. They're not like what do you call it? Like Pop-Tart packets. Those things turn into dust in your pack. But the I've had pretty good luck with the little soy sauce packets. And then if you got a little minute rice or something like that, you'd be surprised what you can do with stuff like that.
Got to jazz it up. You got to jazz it up. You better be stocking up on this stuff because a lot of this long-term survival food is not the tastiest. So if you are going to have a bland apocalypse, you're going to be on your own because I've been stocking spices and salts and sugars and
we got quite a bit of rice here. We use rice all the time, and I go to the Asian market in Saginaw and I'll get gallon jugs of soy sauce because soy sauce literally lasts forever. And there's so much you could even preserve meat with soy sauce. You can use soy sauce as a brine for jerky. You can take strips of your venison or beef or whatever, and you can just throw that in soy sauce with a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of black pepper. Let it soak for a night or two, and then smoke that, and you got a ready-made, thing to preserve your own jerky if you have to. So soy sauce is one of those things. I try to keep a couple gallons of that here at all time, and you can get it the cheapest in bulk out of the Asian stores if you happen to have an Asian store around.
That's a great one because that is on my radar. Venison jerky is on the menu this year. I'm just waiting for the temperature to get up a little bit so I can get the smoker up to temperature.
Actually, that's all 100% protein because there's
no
marbling
fat
with venison. The fat is all on the outside of the muscle. It's not inside the muscle like. And then two, because it is all protein and there's no fat on it, typically venison jerky will last a lot longer because there's nothing to go rancid.
Yeah. We tend to we put it in jars after the fact. It doesn't last long around here.
Oh yeah.
And everybody's walking around holding their jaw because they've been gnawing on the jerky for so long. Yep. Something to think about in SHTF. That stuff is going to wear your teeth down a lot faster. So maybe invest in some dental floss and tooth care kits. That's going to be a big one.
Definitely a little of that adhesive. That's another thing. When you go to the dentist, you can ask them for that too. The temporary adhesive that they put crowns on. So if you've ever lost a crown, and I have a couple different times, and you're not anywhere near a dentist or whatever, you got some of that temporary adhesive that they use on the temporary crowns. You can put your crown back on until you can get to the dentist. So it's worth carrying a couple little packets of that in your first aid kit in your car and stuff too, because it will happen at the most inconvenient time.
Yep. It never happens at a good time. No, dental emergencies are that. They're dental emergencies. And hopefully you have somebody who knows what they're doing and talking about when you have a dental emergency, especially if it's during a crummy event, right?
Yeah.
You don't want that to happen middle of SHTF.
And for all the Jace antibiotics that people talk about, a dental emergency is one of the reasons you would need something like that, because if you got an infected tooth, you are not you're not doing anything else. You're just figuring out how to put the pain down.
Absolutely.
And especially if
Absolutely.
it's on your lower jaw, because if you've ever had a really bad infected tooth,
I have.
that nerve in your lower jaw, Novocaine won't even numb that, because that
No.
nerve becomes, if it gets inflamed enough, is impervious basically to Novocaine. So if you don't
Mm,
take something to calm that all down, they ain't going to be able to do nothing with that anyway. And like I said, you're literally going to be just hating life. You're not going to be able to do anything.
absolutely. I guess my last question for you
Mm,
is kind of based off of current events. You know,
mm.
we're looking around America and we're seeing some of the things that are going on. Um, do you see a way out of this for the nation? Do you see a way of folks kind of pulling together and getting beyond all these differences that they have anymore, or is it just going to be more of the downward spiral?
I think that we're basically heading toward authoritarianism in one form or another. I think people got to stop listening to the I don't want to say the word because it's going to get flagged in a heartbeat, but
Mm,
all the all the inflammatory stuff that you see from both sides on the social media, the news, whatever, podcast, take your pick, that in gets everybody so riled up, people stop kind of thinking with their more human aspect of their mind. They got everybody at each other's throats. I had people tell me years ago already, if you're watching something or you're reading something in the news and um if it's giving you if you're having an emotional response when you're reading this or whatever, that's what they want. They want to get you fired up about for multiple different reasons. So at that point, I've kind of learned to, when I read something, if it's starting to piss me off, I'm going to take a step back from that, think, okay, who wants me upset about this? And I try to analyze that a little bit more before I get into it. And there isn't the morality that there used to be, and that
yeah.
again goes right back to, people don't people don't look at each other like human beings anymore, and unfortunately, until that changes, which I don't think it's going to, with AI and everything that's going on now, I don't think it's going to change. I think personal people in smaller groups and in smaller communities and whatnot, they're probably going to be okay to a certain extent, but on a larger whole, I mean, you can already see the breaks starting to take place in society, and I can't see where that's going to reverse itself with anything less than, unfortunately, bloodshed. And I don't have an answer for it. I
Yeah.
really don't. Sometimes I think maybe it would be a good idea for an EMP to knock everything out for a while, to let everybody kind of go back to,
What's
when
really
you're trying
important?
to survive and you're trying to live and you're trying to, better your situation, and you're not getting sucked into all these different political conversations and all that other kind of stuff. Maybe it would be a good thing if we didn't have quite as much tech what we got now, but who knows? It's like I said, I wish I had an answer for it. I really don't, but I can see where things aren't going to improve, and we're going to go more and more to authoritarianism. Plus, I can see where it's going to be a very technological authoritarianism.
Yeah.
They're going to use every technological means they can to control the population for whatever ends they want it to be. So
Yeah.
I wish I had something better to end the
I
conversation
I'm
on than that, but unfortunately, that's the way it
I'm
is.
with you on that one. I think this is kind of what George Orwell was warning us about in 1984, and it's literally here.
Yeah.
The Big Brother
Yeah,
system
and
is established.
is as bad as it is here in the United States, there's other countries that's worse yet. You look at Great
Yeah.
Britain, you look at Australia, it's just, I often ask, different people on my chats and stuff, that chime in from like Australia or Scotland or Wales or something like that, and they all pretty much say the same thing. We don't know how it got to this point, but we're just trying to survive day to day in it, and And I can see where AI is going to affect a lot of things. And I think a lot of things like white collar jobs, things
Yeah.
like, I think the point's going to come where like your doctor is probably going to be an AI program. You're going to punch in your symptoms, what you got. The AI program is going to say, well, you need this and this diagnostic. You're going to go for your CAT scan or your MRI. That information is going to be uploaded into that program. The program is going to look at it and say, this is what's wrong with you and this is what the treatment is. And you're going to eliminate that thing. I can see where something like that could happen. And same thing with like white collar jobs like management and stuff. I can
Oh
see
yeah.
where you're gonna go to work, the computer's gonna tell you what to do, you're gonna clock in and out of that on how fast you're doing the job or whatever. Then the computer's gonna say, yep, you did that job too slow, you're not meeting our expectation and or our metric, and then they're gonna fire you by an email and you're never even gonna see another person.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. I saw something about a year ago where Elon Musk was talking about, he had one of his Android robots serving people popcorn at one of his events at the Tesla factory or wherever it was. The Tesla bot
Yeah.
was literally, putting the popcorn in the thing and handing people their drink orders and their popcorn and everything.
Mm.
And he said, in 5 years, it's going to be commonplace for people to see these robots out doing menial tasks.
Oh yeah.
And the AI is advancing so fast. I thought about 6 months ago, I was like, these AI videos ain't that bad. It's going to be a while before they're able to deceive the average person. And boy, was I wrong. Within 3 months, they were good enough to deceive the average person who didn't know what to look for in an AI video. And now they're so common. I don't really go on social media that much anymore because half the stuff that's on there is fake AI content.
And that goes back to what I said about, if you're watching some type of news event and you're getting an emotional response from that and you can step back, but now think about how that videos and everything can be manipulated to show you what one side or other, they can take a video and they can, plug their AI into it and they can, add things or take things out or whatever. And as things progress, how is the average person going to, discern that what they're watching, if that's been tampered with or not? So, that's another thing going into it. You really got to watch what's going on. And I don't have the answer. I wish I did on how to filter through that to know exactly what you're seeing. Am I seeing, is this actually legit what I'm seeing, or has somebody twisted this or bent it? How do you know?
Yeah, David Baez, I think Rhonda has the answer for you right here, and it's universal basic income is the answer. If you ask Elon Musk, he says it won't be a basic income. It'll be universal high income because the robots are going to do all the jobs, and then they don't have to pay the robots. They just have to buy them once, and then the robots do everything for free forever, and people can reap the benefits of this. I don't think that these super rich elite are going to share that wealth with the average person who used to work at their factory, in my opinion. But that's just me. What do I know? I'm just a crazy conspiracist guy here on the internet. So
that's just to line their pockets more. If they think that's all of a sudden they're gonna, how many billions of dollars does Musk have?
God.
You
Too
got,
many.
what was there? 300?
He's like the richest guy in the world, right?
Yeah, there's 380 million people in the United States, and if he gave everybody $1 million, he would still only be out $380 million when he's got like 10 billion or whatever like that. Wouldn't even be 10% of his stuff,
No, he
So
could
you
like
start looking at
sneeze and
at those dollar amounts, and at that point, you're not making money to like support your family or whatever. At that point, it's just look how much more I got than what you got. It just becomes like dare I say it, a measuring contest. I'm not going to say it any worse than that, though.
He could sneeze and solve the homeless crisis, right? I mean, he could fart and take care of poverty, but they don't. They just keep getting bigger numbers. Like you said, it's the measuring contest.
It's an ego thing. It's an ego thing. That's how I look at it.
Well, Modern Refugee, I don't want to keep you all night, man, but what a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the channel and just chatting with me this evening. This one-on-one conversation has been absolutely fantastic. I know folks in the chat are going to take away something from this, and I know I took something away from this from you and from the chat here this evening. So always learning.
I appreciate you having me on here, and I appreciate all your subscribers listening to me talk for an hour. Like I said, it reminds me of the old visiting when my parents and grandparents, they'd go over to the neighbors or whatever on a Saturday night and have coffee and coffee cake and just talk about things, and I absorbed so much stuff from those, as a little kid listening to all those conversations, stuff that I'm still benefiting from today. So maybe this is just a modern version of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Modern Refugee. And I want to thank the subscribers and everybody out there for watching and investing your most valuable resource with us tonight, your time. Thank you all so much for being here, and we will catch you on the next video. Any last words for everybody, Modern Refugee?
Nope. You guys just take care out there. Keep prepping and keep learning new things, and don't fall into the manipulation game. God bless all of you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Modern Refugee. Everybody have a great night. Take care.
Take care.